With the New York Times in one hand and the Catechism of the Catholic Church in the other, Al Kresta is ready for conversations of consequence.
A good Catholic is a faithful citizen.
Make America great again!
What's more important here is not saving the country, it's saving your soul.
It's a bold strategy. Let's see if it pays off for us. Trust in the media has hit its lowest point.
I want the truth!
What is truth? Age of the passive layperson can't go on.
It's our job to share that love of Christ with these people.
This is an excellent mission, sir, with an extremely valuable objective.
Broadcasting from the studios of Ave Maria Radio in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and taking a closer Catholic look at current events, issues, and ideas. This is Kresta in the Afternoon.
Al, this is an excellent program.
You have a wonderful show.
I love listening in my car.
That's a great question to start off with.
You are in for a show tonight.
Here we go again.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Al Kresta. Thanks. We've got fascinating material in front of us for this hour, so stay with me. I'm also going to spend a little bit of time talking about the recent slanders oozing out of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Back in 1987, when I first began doing a live talk program, my producer suggested I talk to the Southern Poverty Law Center because of their history of positive involvement in the civil rights movement. And so I did some early interviews with them. By the middle of the 1990s, I was beginning to see something going wrong down there. They were moving away from historic civil rights work, and they were now politicizing themselves. And they were analyzing the radical right and also just the generally conservative right. And I noticed that when they spoke of people that I personally knew, they almost always got it wrong. Their evaluations were wrong, their facts were wrong, so I stopped using them. And then in the last 10 years, I've actually come out and blown the whistle on them because they've become a destructive force in American politics, no longer constructive. But they're rich. We'll talk about it. Right now, though, the news with Nick Tom. And a good afternoon to you. I'm Al Kresta. As you know, for quite a while I've said that the Southern Poverty Law Center was no longer an organization that should be trusted at all. In fact, in my mind, they've done extraordinary damage. Whatever good they may have done back during the civil rights era has certainly been neutralized by their recent slandering, their recent just smearing of legitimate Christian service organizations. So a Thursday, for instance, last Thursday, Newsweek ran a story by Harriet Sinclair captioned, "Donald Trump to speak at hate group's annual event, a first for a president." And the article went on to explain that President Trump will be the first sitting president to address the Family Research Council's Values Voters Summit. And why is this bad? Well, according to Harriet Sinclair, who's obviously fairly ignorant of the background here, the reason this is bad is because the Southern Poverty Law Center described the Family Research Council as a rogues gallery of the radical right. Do you realize that the Family Research Council was started years ago by Gary Bauer and James Dobson from Focus on the Family, and the only claim that one could possibly make against this group is that they do not support same-sex so-called marriage. And so if you notice here, the Southern Poverty Law Center has begun to target organizations that do not support same-sex so-called marriage and have begun to call that and put them on their hate group list. Now, this is a well-worn tactic for the liberal media and the political left. You take a look at, we had our friend Dr. Jennifer Roback Morris with us. They went after her and the Ruth Institute as well. You've heard Jennifer over the years on this program. there's no hate involved in her work. She is hard at work trying to help people who have been victimized by the sexual revolution, whether it's adult children of divorce, or people who have been sold a bill of goods about abortion or transgender therapies. But then we also had if you remember, a few weeks ago, there was the President Trump's nominee for the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, Amy Barrett. She's a Notre Dame law professor, first rate, committed Catholic. But Senator Dianne Feinstein, basically cast suspicion upon Amy Barrett because she's a Catholic. She said that, quote, the dogma lives loudly within you. I mean, it's very silly, but that's what she said. It drew a rebuke from the president of Notre Dame, thankfully. And then it went on. Al Franken went ahead with appalling statements that went mainly unnoticed. But in questioning Barrett about her association with not the Family Research Council, but another organization that we've spent much time working with, Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF. Franken asserted there that according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Alliance Defending Freedom is a hate group that, quote, calls for the sterilization of transgendered people abroad, end quote. That's completely false. It's blatantly false. The media didn't follow up, didn't investigate the claim. If they had, the Southern Poverty Law Center would have been exposed for the political hacks that they've become. Thankfully, Ed Whalen, a conservative lawyer and president for the Ethics and Public Policy Center, exposed the fraud in detail in his blog Bench Memos. But SPLC doubled down on its smear of the Alliance Defending Freedom and expanded its hate slur to Whalen. And again, politicians and the press are acquiescing in these lies. I mean, these are, I assure you, they are lies. These are not just misinterpretations. This is a political strategy to discredit organizations like Family Research Council, the Ruth Institute, Alliance Defending Freedom, and other organizations who for a generation now have been trying to maintain traditional notions of the family. And that has now turned them into, quote, haters. You won't find any even hateful rhetoric with the Family Research Council or Alliance Defending Freedom or the Ruth Institute. It can't be found in their rhetoric, and it certainly isn't found in their policies. Newsweek has pulled the same stunt now, happily regurgitating the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate group slur without investigating the underlying claim. And I'm looking here at, I just had it right in front of me. Yeah, here it is. This is Ed Whalen's piece. You can go to his blog, Bench Memos. I'm looking right now at a piece that he did, a summary piece that he did over at National Review. He highlighted the Southern Poverty Law Center's ugly practice of promiscuously misusing hateful labels to stigmatize its political opponents and milk money from its gullible founders. And true to form, the Southern Poverty Law Center responded to Ed's criticism with an article bearing the sensationalistic title, quote, Ed Whalen is pleased to defend state-enforced sterilization, end quote. That charge is is an outright lie. It's grossly incompetent. And again, this is an attempt on the part of a very left-wing organization to increase hostility towards its political opponents, those with whom they disagree. Disagreement is inevitable in a free society. It's even to be welcomed because political disagreements are part of that big creative conflict process that we hope moves us closer to the truth. As we debate and argue and legislate and litigate, we hope to be moving towards the common good. We've had some real mistakes made in American policy. However, those can't be corrected if political opponents begin to regard each other's as morally and spiritually so corrupt that you can't maintain a conversation with them. But that has been a tactic of the radical left for generations. I can remember when I first got involved in pro-life work, I naively thought that if we could only tone down the rhetoric and speak kindly to people who supported abortion rights, that you could persuade them on the balance of the evidence. So I would go to protests and I would try to do this. I gave it 2 or 3 tries before I realized those people weren't there for discussion. They were there to create chaos. They were there to try and discredit the pro-life people. And it took me a few more years before I realized that that's just the way political protest is done on the part of the left. They are not interested in reconciliation. They are interested in revolution, and they are interested ultimately in winning. And they do not want the common good where we can all say, we affirm this nation out of many one. No, what they want is they want to basically bury the opposition under a load of hateful rhetoric. And they accuse us of being the haters.